Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, intuitive coach and founder of the Awakened Goddess Academy. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Reverend Erin-Ashley Kerti is a world-renowned psychic and spiritual teacher. She specializes in assisting empaths and psychically sensitive individuals tune into their gifts and enjoy all that life has to offer. Erin-Ashley has studied at the University of Metaphysical Sciences and has a master's in forgiveness work. Let's welcome Erin-Ashley to the show. Hi, I'm Angela Wilkinson, and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. Today I have the wonderful Reverend Erin-Ashley Kerti with me, and we're going to be talking about something so important, and that is boundaries as an ultra-sensitive person. You know, boundaries are something we all need to learn how to do. So one of the things you say is keeping yourself in rather than keeping others out. Mm-hmm. So welcome to the show, and I can't wait to have this conversation.
It's a pleasure. It's my second time being here, so I'm really excited about that. And so I am really excited to talk about boundaries because, as you said, it's all about keeping yourself in. So it's not about, you know, we have this idea with boundaries where we're going to be shutting everyone out, or we're going to be letting people down, or we're going to not be a good person. You know, those are the things that a lot of sensitives, including myself, have struggled with. And so boundaries are only about keeping all of you in. It's not about anything else. It's not about trying to manipulate, control, or abandon anyone. Right? And so that's the thing that we get to learn.
So we're going to be pushing your hot buttons today, you guys. So get ready.
Fair warning.
Yeah, so let's back up just a little bit. And why don't you talk about your personal journey? Because I know as we all grow and we're doing our work and we're sharing our work with people, we're forced to step into what's next for us. And I know you've been on this tremendous healing journey. And so let's talk about that. How you realized you were sensitive and what that translated in for you.
Yeah, so I was always an imaginative child, right? Like, so I always was telling stories in my head, and it was fun, you know, imagining other worlds, etc. And so I knew that I was a little different than everyone else, but I didn't realize that I was sensitive until I had this experience. It was in 2004, and I was 19 at the time, so you can date me if you really want to do the math. And I basically was in my little one-room apartment, and I just realized I was having a panic attack at the time. And I just realized, you know, this is interesting. You know, this isn't what other people experience. The world feels different for other people. And that's when I realized that I was different and set apart in some way. But I didn't understand that I was sensitive at that point. Flash forward a few years later, and I was doing research, and I discovered I was something called an empath. Because I could feel other people's emotions without meaning to. I was just walking through the grocery store. Oh, that person's anxious. Now I feel anxious. That person's angry. So the grocery store became this really odd journey of how many emotions can I fit into one 15-minute trip, you know?
Yeah.
And once I was able to identify that, I realized, okay, I want to fix this. This is not something I want to live with forever. You know, I want to be able to go to the grocery store in peace, experience just my emotions, and actually remember everything on my list. Because when I was distracted by everyone else's emotions, I'd forget things. So from there, I started doing research and finding out how to manage my own energy and how to make sure that I kept all of Erin-Ashley in and let other people's emotions be theirs.
Mm-hmm.
They can keep them for now. And if I'm in a relationship with them, if I'm working with them, then I'm willing to feel their stuff, but not just when I need some milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, one of the things I talked with a recent guest was that we take on these roles as children, and we are kind of trained to take on other people's stuff, their emotions, our mother's guilt or our father's control, and these different things. And then as we get older, it's like we think that we're supposed to still carry those, but in fact we're not.
Yes.
So I think a lot of us are still stuck in playing this out, but we don't even realize it.
Yes. So I like to say that we have roughly 6 voices in our head, right? Like I make a joke out of it. It's an actual exercise in one of my courses. We have our own internal intuition. This is our own divine knowing about what we're supposed to do in our life, how we're supposed to show up, the activities that we're supposed to be engaged in. So I call that one intuition with a capital I. It comes from the higher self, which is just the highest version of you in this lifetime, right? Then you have your guides. These are helpers from the other side that assist you on your journey. They can see the maze of life as you navigate it, right? Which is really helpful. So there's the spirit guides as well.
So is that kind of like higher vision in a way?
That's higher vision, but you can train yourself to hear those voices most of the time without getting overwhelmed. It's just about voice recognition. So if you can learn that, then especially your own inner voice, you never have to do any tuning in for that once you get the hang of it. It is always there, regardless of your emotional state, your vibration, the chaos around you. It's always present, always present. And so that's the benefit of intuition with a capital I. And then there's spirit guides, but then there's the ego. Now, when I talk about the ego, I'm not talking about the psychological definition, which is just sense of self, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the spiritual definition, which is the fear gremlin. Its job is to keep you safe. So it's the voice that says, don't cross the street, you freaking idiot, before checking both ways, right? And then it's also the one that's kept you alive until now. So good job, ego. You don't want to get rid of the ego. You just want to manage it. It shouldn't be in charge, but you still do need it.
And this is the loudest one, right?
It's usually the loudest. Yeah. Because if you actually look at the brain, the most core part of the inner brain is made up of the amygdala, right? And the amygdala is the fight or flight little part. It does other stuff too, and emotional regulation. But it governs fight or flight. So it's the most primal part of the brain. So it is also one of the strongest because it's been around the longest, right, as far as human development and evolution. And so it's really important to learn to not let the ego be in charge. The intuition with the capital I, the inner sense of knowing, that one is given to us with birth, but it's usually kind of quieter, right? It's like, I'm here when you're ready to listen to me. And it just waits, but lovingly. It's not a guilt trip. It's never going to guilt trip you. It's just like, okay, all right, this thing happened now. Here's how you move forward. So it's really helpful. And so you have the ego, and then you have logical thinking, which is neutral. It's technically neutral. It's not good or bad. It tells you what to expect based on past experience. And if you actually do the research for statistics, etc., it's going to assist you there. So it can be a hindrance if you have past experience, but haven't done any research to see possibilities, right? But it can be a help if you do enough research to get it on board. So it goes either way. Then you have past programming. Right? And that's what you were talking about.
Right.
Past programming is the voices of our mother, our father, society, lots of experiences with teachers, other people of authority, especially in childhood. So anything that's from the past is going to show up here. Right? The bullies, etc. And it can be a help if you had some helpful people in the past as well. So this one is technically neutral, but for most people, most of the time, it's the negative stuff that sticks with us.
Right.
So it is technically neutral, but it tends to go towards the negative a little bit faster than it goes towards the positive, unless you practice.
Yeah, and what comes to mind is you think of people in families where they're wealthy, and then families that are living in poverty. And it's like the children learn this is how we do our daily life, and this is how we view money, and this brings us more abundance. Yes. And then the other family focuses more on the lack. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that's where I find it's really fascinating.
Yes, and money is one of the easiest places to look because you can use numbers. Like, how do you actually feel when you look at your bank account numbers?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do you feel? How do you feel? Do you feel abundant? Or what stories run through your mind?
Because we can look at the same amount of money. One person can look at it and say, wow, I'm really wealthy. And the other person's like, oh my gosh, I nearly broke.
Exactly. It's all about perspective, and it's also about your lifestyle, right? So the numbers themselves don't say anything, but they will assist you in evoking what's already there. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I do with my students in the psychic mechanics course is I have them actually go through and do a brain dump journaling technique, and then they identify all of the voices to see what is actually speaking to them the most. Yeah. What has precedence right now? Mm-hmm. If ego is speaking the most, and they're actually taking action on ego, then they know that the ego has accidentally gotten in charge, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And you don't want ego to be in charge, right? Like, it's beautiful for keeping you alive, but it's not going to get you fulfilled.
Yeah.
You know?
It's going to keep you safe.
It's going to keep you safe.
If you want to live inside of your comfort zone,
then go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
But if you're watching this show or listening, this show is not about staying inside your comfort zone.
No. No, and you really want to be listening to intuition and the spirit guides more than anything else. When you're doing that, then you're going to be in your fulfilled place, mm-hmm. right? And you can get logic and past programming to get on board with you, because you can take the time to program yourself, mm-hmm. if you wish. Yeah. You can use affirmations, you can use positive visioning, you can use meditative journeys, and you can create your future experiences that way. And then you can also tune in to, that's how you condition past programming, because your mind thinks that's in the past as soon as you do that. That's the cool thing about the mind. You can shape it. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you can take logic. Who else has done what you want to do? Someone has done it. And if you can't find someone, you're limiting yourself too much. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're not actually looking for it, or more commonly, you're blocking it out. That's really common and it's normal, but you want to shift it. Mm-hmm. You want to stop blocking it out.
Yeah. So we're kind of at a crossroads right now. I can tell we're going to dive into manifesting, mm-hmm. but I also want to get back to the my stuff, your stuff conversation.
Yes.
Because, really, it's sometimes difficult when, I know I still have some of my...
Okay, yes, okay.
My parents' stuff going on, and it's really coming up for me. And in fact, I had this amazing dream last night. I won't share the details because, it's too juicy, but but it was really one of those dreams where it's like you're processing during your dream. And I was actually crying and woke up crying, and then I journaled it, and I was able to see where I'm limiting my abundance because of my thought of not deserving.
Yeah. And
so that I came in with this. This was something I was shaped to believe. So let's talk about, how do we know what's ours, what's others, and how do we shift that?
Okay, so there's something called the heart center technique. This is the fastest way I know how to listen to the capital I intuition. And my hands have paint on them. We painted a room. So I still have to demonstrate it.
We still love you anyway.
So I'm going to show. And basically it's very simple. You place your hands here, right? Mm-hmm. And you actually take a moment to feel that heart energy. And then you just want to ask any questions you have. And I recommend that you word it in yes, no framing. Mm-hmm. It's really beneficial because the heart deals best with yes, no. Now, most people's yeses feel expansive, warm, etc. It's going to feel good. Like if you had to categorize the feeling, it'd be good. And most people's no's are going to feel closed, cold, disassociated. It's something that is generally bad. We're oversimplifying, but this is a simple process, so we get to do that. But
don't overcomplicate it, is what she's saying.
But if you can just ask simple, direct, yes/no style questions, okay, is this emotion mine or someone else's? And then you'll usually hear a voice, mine, someone else's. It'll be really short usually. So, is this voice mine? That's the yes/no version, right? I've done this for a while, so I can ask two-part questions, but, okay, it's mine. Oh, it's not mine. Okay, can I let this go? And then it'll say yes or no.
So you don't worry about where it came from, who it belongs to.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, it's already here.
Jump to the...
Yeah, I mean, unless it's someone who literally hired you to help them, it does not matter. Right? And so if someone has hired you to assist them on their healing journey, sure, explore that. But for the most part, you're just going to want to let it go. I mean, it's in your experience. It doesn't need to be in your experience. If you want to figure it out, you can, but it's going to delay your ability to feel good. The figure it out trap just helps you feel that emotion for longer, because the emotion's going to stay around until you say that you're ready to let it go. And if you're saying stay around so I can figure out why you're here, then it's going to stay around so you can figure out why it's here. It's going to obey.
That's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's up to you, really, but I don't necessarily recommend it.
Well, and I love that it is that easy. The ego wants it to be hard.
Yeah.
And even like with the questions I asked, don't we need to figure out where it came from? This is my therapist mind, Let's dive deep and really get in there and work through this.
Yeah. So that makes sense. However, unless you're actually in a therapy session, it doesn't make sense to dive in at that moment.
Right.
If you notice that it doesn't go away easily, for instance, sometimes you'll ask, can I just let you go?
Yeah.
And it'll be like, nope. Which means that you've got to feel something. Sometimes you do have to feel all of your emotions. Sometimes you have to create space for anger, for grief, for despondency, for frustration, contempt, all of the emotions that we like to label as bad, and never feel those emotions or else. And then we don't talk about what the or else is. That's just the ego, right? It's just saying don't listen to the lower half of the emotions. All emotions come with a message. So if you're willing to feel the ones that don't want to be released yet, right, you give it the option. All right, there's the door. Do you want to go? Oh, okay, you want to stay. All right, let's feel this. What's going on? Yeah. How do I feel you?
When those parts that's attached to really wants acknowledgement, and that's all. Usually.
Well, acknowledgement is sometimes a lesson, because sometimes there's this, like we talked about past programming, there's the 7-year-old self that felt rejected by the parents, that felt abandoned by life's situations, that felt, unliked, unloved by friends and family just because they didn't really understand. So you can take the time to heal that 7-year-old part of yourself and heal that past programming. And that's part of how you get past programming on your side moving forward, is you heal it as it comes up. Yeah. And love it as it is. So you don't have to heal the sad child within by forcing it to not be sad. You can just say, okay, I understand you're sad. It's okay to be sad. It's safe to be sad. Everyone gets sad sometimes. And then as the sad child grieves whatever it needed to grieve, then you will experience more wholeness. And most of the time, the sadness in the child will disappear anyway. But if it doesn't, that's okay, because sadness is normal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and even when I wrote down my dream and just kind of acknowledged it, later I was skipping around the house, and I felt literally in my chest that I was lighter, more expansive. And I was like, oh, wow, I feel like I can receive more now.
Yes. Because you fully received the sadness as it showed up. Because every time you fully receive the emotion that's actually present, it doesn't actually want to go. It's fully here. It's fully now. Then you're practicing the art of receiving. And you're practicing the art of being present. Yeah. And that allows you to create and manifest everything.
Yeah. Cool. So the piece about keeping yourself in versus keeping others out. I just want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yes. Okay. So I like to play a game of whose energy is it?
Yeah.
Right. So first you tune into the emotion. Let's say you're in a busy office, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this doesn't have to take long. You're in a busy office. It might be Jones down in accounting, or it might be your boss's energy, or maybe you're just actually nervous about the meeting that's coming up. You don't know, right? It could be anyone's energy. So you just focus again in the heart center right here,
Mm-hmm.
and you just ask, whose energy is this, right? And again, I don't recommend going into too much like, oh, it was Tom's because you're like, don't play that game. You'll torture yourself. But just say, okay, is this mine or is this someone else's? And if it's yours, then you get to own it, right? So if it's yours, you're keeping it, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's someone else's, be like, oh, okay. And most of the time, once you focus inward, okay, now what is my emotion, right? And how do I feel? And once you focus on that, then if it's someone else's energy, it'll just dissolve. Mm-hmm. Because you don't have to feel other people's emotions unless you choose to. Now, it's a practice to learn how to choose to feel your own and choose to feel others, because we've unconsciously been choosing it all. So just because it's a choice doesn't mean it's an easy choice or that you necessarily know how to do it on command. But it is a choice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is a choice.
So what's this piece about taking responsibility for other people so they don't have to feel bad?
Healer stuff. All right, yes. Sensitive people do this. I love
that was what was coming up. So that's why I want to.
Okay, so here's the thing. Sensitive people are often called to be healers in some capacity, whether it's counseling, whether it's doing intuitive work, whether it is anything on the spectrum of helping people specifically feel good, heal, etc., feel better in their life. And so what happens is sensitives have this natural ability to heal. So we want to heal. And if we don't give ourselves parameters of specifics that we want to heal within ourselves or others, like we have to give our natural healing nature something to do. Mm-hmm. Or else it's just going to go and try to heal the sister that doesn't actually want to be healed. She wants to be. Yes. Like if you have a sibling that wants to be a drug addict, right? Let's go deep here. And you haven't actually nurtured your ability and desire to heal, then you're going to consistently try to save your sister from herself, mm-hmm. right? And this is big because people will take responsibility for their siblings' addictions, problems, money issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on forever. Yeah. And so if you haven't constructively found a way to channel your natural healing energy, you're going to try to heal willy-nilly, and it's going to create drama.
Yeah.
And you're not going to feel good.
No.
It's not going to feel good because your sister's stuff is her stuff. You can't feel her emotions for her. Like, you can experience them as if they're your own, mm-hmm. but you're not healing them until she's willing to be healed. She has to give permission for healing to happen. And until she's willing, until she's willing to, she's going to continue on the same cycle. Mm-hmm, just mm-hmm. different version of the same cycle, right? And so you can be there, and whenever she is willing, you can step in at that point, but don't do it until you get permission, mm-hmm. right? And it's the same thing everywhere. We like to heal others. The other reason, that's the number one reason, but there's another reason, and the other reason is we're trying to avoid our own stuff, right? We mm-hmm. have our own stuff to heal, and we'd much rather focus on someone else's because then we don't have to focus on ourselves, and we don't have to deal with Bob, who left us 7 years ago, and now we're raising kids, and he's not even paying his child support. And it's, those types of things. We haven't done our inner work. We haven't forgiven our exes, our ex-bosses, our previous younger selves that made decisions we would not choose again, mm-hmm. So I would look at, do you have a framework to help others heal in whatever way feels best to you? And number two, are you avoiding your own healing? If you're focusing on your own healing, you're not going to feel as compelled to heal those who aren't ready to heal.
So what about those times? I think that there is I'm not sure exactly what the words are it's just formulating and here in the moment, where we think we're doing our work, but we're really not.
Look at the results.
Look at the results. Okay.
Look at the results. If you say that you want to manifest $100,000 in a year, and at the end of the year, you've manifested $5, you didn't do some of the internal work. That's the glitch. Yeah. There's a glitch there.
Okay.
Maybe your work was to actually take a course that taught you how to make more money. Maybe not. Maybe your work was to actually buy the lottery ticket whenever your intuition told you to, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe your work was to actually email the people and give them an offer. Right? Here's the thing I would like to give you. Here is what I would like to receive in exchange. But maybe you never made that email happen. And you thought that just sitting would give you the ability to receive. There's usually an exchange. There's almost always an exchange. So you have to look at the results. If the results don't match the intention, you have internal work to do. End of story. Very simple.
Yeah. And so I think that there's a huge conversation there.
Yes.
Because I think that, me too. There are things that I have said that I wanted to manifest and they're not manifesting.
Yes.
So clearly I know that I need to take responsibility for I'm not stepping in somewhere. I'm avoiding some. I think sometimes we try to do the roundabout way and
yes, it'll come in divine timing. That's the spiritual way of getting out of it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to come in divine timing. Of course it is. But that divine timing is whenever you show up fully ready to receive it, including the skills and the pathway to let it come in. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it's a skills issue, right? You learn a new skill and then you get to receive better stuff that you actually want. Other times it's letting go. Are you willing to let go of the thought patterns and habits that have kind of kept you where you are, right? Mm-hmm. Also, the relationships that you know are no longer good for you. That's the hardest. That's the hardest because we don't necessarily stop loving the individual we're letting go of. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's really important to notice that and honor the fact that sometimes we have to let people go because we've grown and they haven't been willing to grow as well. And it's just no longer aligned. Right? And that's okay. That's normal. That happens. And we can let go with love. It doesn't mean we love them any less. It doesn't mean they're not fully deserving of everything wonderful in their life that they're going to attract in the future. Or that they desire and aren't attracting, right? We're not saying anything about their deservingness. Right. We're just saying, this is what I want, and I'm willing to move forward with it. And by the way, just a side note, this is where it can get tricky because people will assume that they have to be loyal, but you always want what's the best for individuals. And if you're with someone who you should not be spending time with, only because of loyalty, there's no longer that connection. You're doing them a disservice. There's someone else energetically who's the right match for them at this time, and you're taking that spot. Yeah, you're taking that spot. And so we have to be willing to let go for both people's highest goods. Yeah. When it goes back to the earlier part of our discussion where you're taking responsibility to protect them or keep them safe or keep them from feeling whatever you think that they're going to feel. Exactly. They're going to have emotions. Maybe your decision will not be received well, right? And then they will have resentment even though you did everything to the best of your ability to give them peace, right? And that's a part of it. Are you willing to do what's best for you even if someone disagrees and disagrees rather strongly? Yeah. I think we all have experienced that. Yeah. But I think, looking at it from a different perspective, when you outgrow people, you're doing your work. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a natural progression. Yes. And I mean, because no two people really grow at the same time, at the same pace, in the same direction. It might be similar, but... Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's similar, but we're always going to grow. And sometimes that means growing apart, and sometimes that means growing closer. But that's the nature of growth, is it changes. And everything changes anyway. It's just whether or not you get to be a conscious part of the change. Right. Really. And we all want to be more conscious. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, if you're watching the show, yes. Right. That's part of what you're here for. Yeah. Awakening. Awakening, yes. So let's go back to the art of receiving. And what was the other one? The art of receiving, and then there's the art of allowing. Then you
There's many arts.
There's so many arts, but I don't know which.
Oh, the presence, the art of presence.
Because
we talked about the art of presence, and the art of receiving really was where manifestation.
It is because here's how it works.
All right, I'm going to take notes. I'm glad I'm having this recorded.
Yes, so you have, let's say there's something that you desire. I'm going to use money because it's really easy to conceptualize, and the numbers are there, so it's really easy to see whether you actually got what you said you wanted or not so much.
Yeah.
You know, so let's say, again, I like the $100,000 rule just because it's really simple. So let's say you want $100,000 in a year, and let's say you got $5,000, right? So who do you want to become who can fully and easily receive $100,000 in a year, right? Mm-hmm. And so first off, the first part of that is this even a thing that you actually want?
Right.
Or is it, your mom thought that you should have money, or you really want to be recognized and you're looking for other people's approval, so you want the money? Or do you want the money because to you, it will represent a specific amount of internal growth? Right? Do you want it because you have a specific tangible goal that you're going to receive once you have the money and then exchange it into something else? Maybe you use it to buy the house of your dreams, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe you use it because you want to retire, and so it goes into your retirement account. You have something specific that's attached to it. Mm-hmm. But you want to really examine whether you want it or not.
Right, because I think we kind of get lazy about that. With this whole idea of the law of attraction, and it's like, oh yeah, I want $1 million.
I want all the things, right? Yeah. And that's fine. You can have all the things, but you've also got to be the kind of person who can easily receive them. So that means that you want to look around. Where in your life are you actually receiving things? And do you welcome the things that you actually receive right now?
Yes.
Right? Including the stuff that you don't want to receive,
So as we go through this, I'm going to throw myself out there, and I like to be a guinea pig. So,
all right, fabulous.
Because money is my gift to really learn and grow about.
All right.
So I manifest things like gifts and things all the time. Money, on the other hand, there's a real
okay.
thing.
You receive gifts. Yep. Have you? I'm actually going to do a little mini coaching real quick.
Great.
Because this is fun, especially for me. So, do you know your love languages? Is gifts one of your love languages? Do you know?
I think I'm more about time.
Okay, so your quality time, right? But you receive gifts. Mm-hmm. Did you grow up with gifts being a show of love?
From
parents or...
Yeah, one side of the family.
Okay. And so there's a couple things that could be going on, right? So let's say you can receive gifts, you can receive surprises. But then whenever it comes to money, it's harder. Yeah. Right? So first off...
Because I never received money from my biological dad.
Right.
But he spent a lot of money on himself. And then he never paid like child support or paid for my education. And so, there was a big contrast.
Okay.
We have a great relationship now, but
right.
There's that thing.
Right. Well, we're talking about money specifically. Right. So you can love someone and still have something to heal. And you can have a fabulous relationship that works really well and still have a little something to heal. Yeah. So this is most likely a lack of practice in receiving money.
Yes, definitely.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so this isn't a lack of intention. And this might not even be a specific block anymore. Right? Mm-hmm. Because as far as I know, from what I've spoken with you about, I'm not tuned in per se right now, but like you've worked on your money blocks for a while.
Yes.
You've been doing active. So now it's about practicing receiving. So I like something that's called mental rehearsal for this. Mental rehearsal. So this is a type of meditation. You go in, but you specifically imagine how you're going to receive the money, and then you put it in as much detail as possible, and you keep at it until you get it.
Yeah. Okay. So let me tell you what happens when I look at money. Mm-hmm. I get scared.
Okay, so what fear? What's the fear? You look at money and then?
Well, I'm afraid that it's like I get really scared and panicky about spending it.
Okay.
Because it's limited, and so because I don't have the flow coming in, it's like, oh God,
Okay, yeah. So what you're going to do Very simple exercise. You're going to print off your bank statement every day. Every day. Mm-hmm. You're going to look at it, and then you're going to love it.
All right.
As it is. You're not going to change it. And then after you feel at peace with what is, this is step number one. You have to be at peace with what is before you get new stuff, right? It's going to keep giving it to you. Okay, are you at peace yet? Are you at peace yet? All right, here's the same thing. All right, what about now? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically going to be a 5-year-old in the back of the car on a trip.
Yeah.
Are we there yet? Are you ready? Right? And then after that, after you have peace with what is, then you go into your meditative space and start practicing receiving. Because if you can't look at your bank account with the number that is there right now, then how are you going to look at it whenever there's 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 100,000?
Right.
Right.
Because we always are in process, and regardless of the amount, I could still feel the same exact thing.
It doesn't change. It doesn't change unless you change it.
Right.
I have a friend who's been in business for basically a decade now, and she has the same fear money mindset that she had when she was making $1,000 a month. Right. And she no longer makes $1,000. She makes almost $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
And her experience of money has not changed. More money does not solve that problem. It does not solve that problem. And so you want to work on healing it now.
Right.
That way, when you do receive, first off, if you're not even looking at the money now, or if you're feeling fear when you look at it now, you're basically saying to money, I'm afraid of you, please don't come near me.
Right.
Right? And so if you're saying, I'm afraid of money, I don't want it to come near me, right? Because I don't know what to do with it, and I'm afraid it's going to run out. So I just don't want any of it, because then I don't have to take responsibility for making a mistake with it.
Right.
Right?
Then like, what do I have to do for it? What's the cost? It comes at a very high price.
According to you.
Right. Definitely.
Right? That's your story.
That is my story.
That's not my story. Yeah. Like my story about money is that I really like it. It's a lot of fun, and it buys the things that I like, including the ability to take time off and go see my family.
Yeah.
My sister's going to have a baby in January. Money's going to buy me a plane ticket to hold that baby. And so that's what I want. Yeah. That's what I want. And so money in my story isn't the bad guy. It's something that I like. I think it's, and notice the words. I said fun, right? It's almost a sin to call money fun. You know, like in spiritual circles, it's like, whoa, wait, what? You think money's fun? Have you meditated before? Are you in tune? You know, and so
are you really spiritual?
Yes. Why are you making money if you're spiritual? You'd be more spiritual if you stopped making money. But the truth is, I like to have fun with my clients, and I can do that better if all of my needs are taken care of.
Right.
If all my needs are taken care of, then I can do really good work. They can receive really high quality work, and I can take a week off if I need a week off. I can have a mental health week where I sit and read books that do not contribute to my knowledge, you know, like just novels. Fluffy stuff. That's right. And I can go and spend a little time with my husband, you know, out of the house, you know, and all of that is important. That's part of life that's really important. And money allows me to do a lot of that because I don't have to work the extra week. I have that freedom.
Right.
And that's what it's about. It's about accessing and creating a reality that allows you to have the freedom that you actually want.
Yeah. So this visualization meditation.
Yes.
So let's
mental
talk about
rehearsal.
Mental
yes.
rehearsal.
I love mental rehearsal. And so with mental rehearsal, you go into a meditative state, right? So you just relax, basically, close your eyes, and then say, okay, what would it be like to receive money? And then you try to make it as reality-based as possible. So that's why it's called mental rehearsal, not visualization. Visualization is really good whenever you're wanting a fantasy or exploring what you actually want, right? Wouldn't it be nice if? That's really good for identifying what you want. So I like to use that whenever I don't know what I want yet. You know, it's like, okay, I completed this thing that I wanted. Now I don't know what I want next. So let me think about that. So I use visualization. Okay, what do I want? And I explore. But mental rehearsal is when I know exactly what I want, and it just hasn't shown up yet, and I don't know what I need to do differently. You know, I feel stuck. So I go through, and I say, okay, what would it be like if I had 10 clients today, right? Like if I had 10 clients purchase today at my full rate, what would happen? And of course, there's the initial woohoo, excitement. Let's go out to the
Dance
best
around the house.
Yes, let's absolutely go to the best restaurant and celebrate. That's part of it. But then once it calms down, it's like, okay, 10 clients. How am I going to schedule that? How is that going to work with my current schedule? Do I need to let go of anything to make room for it? Do I need to add anything to add structure for them to go? Like, do I have just some boring but important business details? Do I have a scheduler set up? Is it automated? Can they do that, or do I need to be at my computer just waiting for sales? Right? Yeah. What needs to happen? What's the customer experience for the entire process? Are they going to, at the end, say nice things if I run it the way that I currently visualize it? And then I go through the process piece by piece mentally. And that's mental rehearsal. And so at that point, you're asking your problem-solving part of the brain to show up, right? You're saying, okay, this is what I want. I cleared all the blocks that I know about. So let's see what I don't know about that we can explore. Yeah. And then you go through and you explore it. And you keep exploring until you've created it. Now, every single day that you do this, you don't have to do this daily. I recommend a few times a week. But if it starts to feel like a chore and you really don't want to look at it again because you're annoyed because it hasn't showed up, give yourself a break, right? Take a break. It's okay to take a break with this. Right?
You mean it's going to take longer than 2 weeks?
Who knows? It can happen very quickly. Yeah. But sometimes it doesn't. So you want to be open to it happening right now and open to it happening a little bit later. Right. So it's about allowing yourself to be open no matter what. No matter what does or doesn't happen, are you going to stay committed to what your heart actually wants? And if it's money, there's nothing wrong with that, but you want to honor that and you want to go through the process.
Yeah, so I love that process. After you go through that, then do you start taking action?
It depends on what happens in your mental rehearsal.
So in that example, and I'm going somewhere with this. So
I like this. This is going to be great.
Yeah. So you think about all these systems in that particular example. You think of these systems that you need to put into place before these clients can show up. So how do you not get into the masculine energy of the do and overwhelm yourself? Because
if you get overwhelmed, then you need to go back. Because if your vision overwhelms you, you need to rethink your vision. Right?
Well, I mean, like all the action.
Oh, you don't do it all at once.
Okay.
You're not going to. Oh, okay. This is common. So whenever you have. Sorry, I misunderstood for a second. Sure. So whenever you have an intuitive vision, right? Like whenever you're tapping into the future, it's very easy to think that we have to do everything that we envisioned right now.
Right.
Now, whenever you access this, you're accessing a possible potential future, right? And no one, other than possibly yourself, is going to expect you to do it overnight. So you want to break it down. Let's say you want to start a business. Right? Like that's very easy example. It's very common. Then what are the actual action steps, right? Do you need to register your business name? Like it's technically a masculine thing to do, but it's also necessary. Right? Then what exactly have you decided what you're going to sell? Right? What's it going to feel like? What's it going to look like? What's the customer experience? What systems do you need? You just make a list. You really, truly just make a list. And then my personal approach is I just do one thing from the list every day. I don't have to do all of them at once. Some days I do 5 or 6 or 7 or 10, right? Because I'm on fire, I'm in flow. My intuition is saying, now's the time. Yeah. And so I go, okay. And then usually a day or two after I do 5 or 10 or something, my intuition will be like, let's do nothing today, right? And then instead of doing one more thing, I sit down and watch TV all day or whatever I actually feel like doing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Now's the time moment because I think a lot of us have gotten out of what that feels like and instead, look at that list and we're like, oh, I need to do these things. And I'm like all tight.
All right. Whenever now's the time and you're not blocked, then it just kind of appears to happen, quite frankly. It happens naturally. It feels easy. It may require action and it may require what others will call effort, but it won't feel like effort to you. It'll feel easy. It'll feel natural. It'll feel like the natural next step. usually before you know it, you're actually filling out the forms for the paperwork, right? You're actually going on the government's website and looking up which paperwork you actually have to fill out and printing it off and actually going through. There's not anxiety, there's peace.
Yeah.
Right? And so
there's no forcing.
No force, no controlling. Like, you're not showing up thinking, okay, I have to do this now, or I've decided I'm a terrible person, right? It's okay, print it off, filled it out. It's not a thing. There's not that emotional attachment to it. It's something that's flowing out of you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have, you're not forcing yourself to do it. You're allowing yourself to do it because now feels like the right time and you feel like doing it now and it feels good to do it.
And it's so true that you will feel that inspiration come from within, and you'll find yourself just stepping into the activity. There's not much thought process about it.
Yes. And that's how you know. That's how you know. And so even if you tend to do masculine things whenever you're in that state, you're still in a state of flow, you know. So if that happens, it's great. And other days, you may just want to choose one little thing because you know you're taking action and you can do whatever else fills you up the rest of the time. You know, whatever else you need to get done with other responsibilities you have. And sometimes that is the thing that you're going to be asked to do, your intuition is telling you to do, is go and meditate, you know? And that's an action. You can time that. If you go into a 20-minute meditation, you can set a timer for 20 minutes and you can take specific actions and know whenever it's done, but it still allows you to align in a beautiful way, you know? And so everything has masculine and feminine energy. So it's all about what's actually wanting to flow through you right now.
Sure. So what about the piece about playing and fun? And
it should feel like that most of the time. Now, what I often see people do, this is what I consider the mistake, right? I'm going to label it, is that people will assume that if they're not inspired to do something, they should just wait indefinitely, right? And so sometimes you align your energy with action. You say, this is what I want. I've waited a week for myself to feel inspired. I've done everything else to remove the blocks, and it's just not happening. I'm not feeling inspired to do this for whatever reason. But I also know internally, there's that inner knowing again, right? That this is the right action for me to take. And so at that point, you say, okay, I'm not going to wait for my emotions to get into alignment. I'm going to do it and expect my emotions to follow suit. They usually do. But again, you've done as much internal work as you know how to do at that point. You're not skipping the internal work step. You're including it, and the emotions, just for whatever reason, you're still feeling resistant. At that point, you don't worry about why you're feeling resistant. You just go ahead and take aligned action, assuming that the emotions will come through. Now, what will happen is either the emotions will be like, yay, and then get on board, or they'll say, oh, but what about that one time you did this exact same thing, and then the entire universe collapsed and you felt terrible for a month. Right? The little thing that you couldn't access before, the block will come up as you get into the engagement. And so you say, okay, well, I've done the thing, so I've addressed the bulk of the fear, but now you have the block that you can sit down and continue working with. So it's a nice way to dig up any blocks that are like hibernating.
Yeah. Yeah, because we do have, it's like we learn how to, it's like that scotoma, the blind spot.
Yes.
It's like, what? I don't see anything.
I don't have a block, right? And that we're sure we don't have a block and that there's something wrong with the universe and it's not giving us because the guides don't like us or whatever our story is, you know, or we're too damaged or I don't know.
I'm not working hard enough.
I'm not, oh, yes.
That one was mine.
Yeah.
I'm a recovering, not working hard enough girl.
Super common. But we've been taught that you have to work hard to receive the stuff that you actually want. You have to work smart. You have to be a little bit strategic. You don't have to only be strategic. You again, this is intuition based. You know, you're following your inner knowing. Your inner knowing sometimes comes with strategy. Yeah. Right?
It's smart.
Yeah. And so it's not all, and I know strategy has gotten a masculine label, especially recently, but whenever you allow it to flow based on where you are internally, it's not necessarily masculine or feminine. It's about showing up spiritually exactly as you are. And sometimes it has a masculine edge to it, and sometimes it has a feminine edge to it.
Right.
And so you can allow it to be either one, you know, and you can even say, like, I've done this before. It's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this. This is not I'm not following that part. You're going to have to fix it. Like, I have seriously said that.
You need to give me another action.
Yeah, you're going to have to give me something else. I'm not doing that, And now this is after I do the internal work.
Right.
That way I know I'm not just scared.
Right.
Right.
And not just not stepping in.
Yeah, exactly. So at that point I say, nah, I don't want to do it that way. Show me another way. Mm-hmm. Show me another way. I'm not doing it that way.
Yeah.
And so I just negotiate until I find a way that I actually enjoy. And then I was like, okay, I'll do it this way. This is fun. And sometimes my guides will come in and say, okay, but it's going to take longer. And I said, that's okay. I'd rather do it my way. I just don't want to use that particular method.
Right. Well, a lot of times with the strategy or following that guidance, synchronicity happens.
Exactly.
And so it's like you think it might look like the slow way, but in fact there are little surprises along the way that just line things up.
Exactly. And there's not technically a slow way anyway. But yes, I said it, so I know I did. But still, it feels slow in the moment. That's part of being human.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. So when it doesn't manifest in 2 weeks, and I just throw that number out there.
Right.
Because we were kind of playing with it earlier. But so when things don't manifest and we're getting like, where's my thing?
Right. Okay. First, this is all about being what Lester Levinson, he's a teacher, a spiritual teacher in my opinion, and he calls it being hootless. Hootless. Do you give a hoot whether it comes or not? Like, are you actually at peace with either way?
Yeah.
Right?
So if you're not don't be attached to the outcome.
Which is so hard.
I know.
But that's the lesson. Do you still want the thing? If the answer is yes, your heart still wants it. Okay. Where do you feel attached? So you ask, where do I feel attached to this goal? Where do I feel repulsed by this goal? Attached, because what is drawing you to it? And what feels repulsive about it? So I'm going to use you as an example. I don't know if this is entirely accurate, right? So, you look at your bank account and you get nervous. Mm-hmm. So where is that repulsion? Maybe you're pushing money away because you're afraid of the responsibility, right? If the responsibility causes anxiety, then that's the repulsion portion, right? Mm-hmm. And if the attraction part is people will love you more, or you'll be more worthy, or whatever story is going on, then that's the attraction part. So you want to release on both sides. You want to practice both sides, because what happens is it's a tug of war. Like you at the center, if you're not attached, then you don't have a string pushing one way or the other. So the attachment pulls it this way, and then repulsion pulls it that way, right? And so if you're attached, then and they're both pulling pretty hard, then you're stuck in the middle. You can't actually go anywhere, right? Yeah. You're not going anywhere. But if you let it go, then you can go anywhere you need to be, right? Because you've let go. Okay, so how do we let it go? You practice welcoming. This is what we talked about with allowing. You let it be where it is. Okay. Welcoming. So, right. So this is whenever you're looking at your bank statements. We're going to use that. It's a nice concrete example. Yeah. You're letting yourself feel however you feel in the moment, while also having the goal of experiencing gratitude or peace, or one of the high vibe emotions, right? And so So I look at it and I think about all the things that I want to spend the money on. And you just welcome, but you have the observer's role when you do that. So you're looking at it and you're welcoming it. So, okay, I'm having a thought about all the things that I want to buy. Right? Okay, if I had $10,000 more, this is what I'd like to buy. And you welcome it, but you don't control it. Oh, okay. You see what I mean? So you welcome the inflow of... Exactly. Whatever comes up naturally. Because it's just stuff. It's just thoughts. So you're letting them up, because whatever is underneath those thoughts at the core, that's the true heart's desire. The thoughts just clutter it. So you're letting them up from the observer state so that you can see the heart's desire more clearly and be connected with it. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. So that's what it means, because once you're hootless, you will see it, and maybe you'll decide to change those numbers, but it will feel, number one, inevitable, and number two, if it doesn't happen tomorrow, you will have complete knowledge that you're going to allow it and make it happen in the perfect way, at the perfect time, and you're not letting it go. And by not letting it go, I don't mean you're going to obsess about it. I mean, you're not going to, when it's a heart desire, you can be hootless, but without needing to force. Does that make sense? Okay. So you will want to know that. You'll want to be conscious about that. And so you can want to create something and have a pure desire right? Without wanting to force it to happen. And you just say, I'm ready. What do I need to do? What do I need to create? What pathways do I want to do? Mm-hmm. That's when you usually get into the strategy. But sometimes the strategy, I have a dear friend, and right now her strategy is to meditate more, right? Like that's her strategy. Yeah. And it's a friend who's made multiple six figures from her business, mm-hmm. right? So this isn't, that's her strategy. But with time, her strategy has been in the past, do product launches, it has been very business and action oriented. But right now it's not, mm-hmm. right? Because that's just not what's coming from within her at this moment.
Yeah. For others, that might be a distraction, but for her, because it's coming from that intuitive place, exactly. She knows that that's the right action.
Exactly. Yeah. Because again, this is intuition with a capital I. Mm-hmm. This is your inner knowing.
Right.
And sometimes it's going to be things like alignment, journaling, meditation, belief work, tapping, all of that. And other times it's going to be, have you emailed your list an offer? How is your copywriting? Mm-hmm. What did your headline say? Like all of the technical details.
Right.
Right. And it's always both. It's safe for it to be both.
Yeah. So the message I'm really hearing right now is about not resisting.
Yes.
Not resisting the messages, not resisting the feelings. Whatever is coming up, there's a purpose for it. And the moment that we can relax into that, whatever that action or intuitive guidance or feeling is, then that's just going to give us the next step.
Yes, exactly. And there's always a next step. I did a month of what I called radical intuition because I wanted to play with this. And this was in 2011, I think, in November of 2011, I was getting married the next month. I was trying to start a business at that point, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I felt completely overwhelmed and confused. And I said, okay, what else? I'm just going to sit and meditate until I get an action and come up in my head that I can actually, and I feel at peace. And then I'm going to take action. And then after I'm done with that specific task, I'm going to go back to meditating. And I'm going to keep this up until, the next 30 days indefinitely. That's what I'm going to do. And so for 30 days, I did radical intuition, where every single decision came from a place of meditating first, listening to the call, and taking the action. Now, the most amazing thing to me was a couple of things that popped up included watching Netflix, eating a cheeseburger. Like, seriously, that came up. And what was it? And then there were things that you expect, like keep meditating, take a day off, go for a walk, write an email, the things you'd expect, but also the things that allow you to replenish that are specific to you, right?
Yeah.
Those came up as well. And sometimes I'd question, be like, what? You want me to do what? You want me to eat a cheeseburger? That's not on the good list. What the heck? And then it just came up, and I said, okay, whatever. I like cheeseburgers. I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that intuition, I love that it's gentle yet persistent. Mm-hmm. Like if we are willing to listen, it'll be there to guide us.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So why don't you tell us about the gift that you have for Academy members, because I know it's really cool.
Oh, okay. This is fun. So we've been talking about how to listen to our hearts, right?
Yeah.
So the gift is a PDF and a webinar that I did on your psychic heart. So this is the specific way to explore your heart and how it speaks with you. So it's a 93-minute webinar. And then it also has the slides that you can download. Mm-hmm. And so you can listen to it and you can go through the slides. And then it has some specific actions for you to take that will really assist you. And there are a couple other bonuses in there as well. So you can use that link and download all those goodies. And then you can start listening to the heart just like we've been talking about.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this was like an incredible conversation. And I know that there are pieces that I could sense where I have some deeper work that I can step into, especially around that abundance piece. And I'm both excited and nervous.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's the right path. That's the right path.
So I want to thank you so much for joining me, because it's always a pleasure to talk with you. And I'm glad that I could share you with the viewers and listeners.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor and pleasure to be here.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.